that's a really great thing that you just said. So why don't we give them the basic right to live their life, right? I agree with that. Let's give them a basic right to live with life.
Keep peeking at it. If
Does that
this way more, you'll have more room.
Oh,
yeah. I think that's
There you go, and then you can go right there.
All right.
yeah. Okay, cool. So my name's Nick. What's your name?
Mark.
Mark. Nice to meet you, Mark. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Pretty good. We're just out here kind of today talking about essentially like power dynamics between the powerful and the powerless. Basically asking people like, if someone's like maybe stronger, like you see that dude, like obviously he's a big dude, or maybe someone's smarter, right? Higher IQ. Do you think being smarter or stronger than someone gives you the right to kind of oppress or like dominate over someone? Like, do you think that's fair?
Wow, great question. I think that if we live our life to our own skill sets, that we can find power in our own self to be able to grow into an area that we can be successful in. Like, I'm not the most fastest, nor am I the most powerful, and I'm not the smartest, but I have skill sets that I've utilized that have created me to be a success.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, yeah, I agree completely. Like, obviously, we all have unique stuff about us that we can use, obviously. But I think we'd broadly agree that, like, you know, just because someone may have power over someone, like, that doesn't give them a right to, you know, dominate over someone. I think we can agree on that.
Well, that's just being rude.
Right, exactly. Like,
okay, it's not, there's a difference between being rude and being oppressed.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, like, well, I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, an example. Like, let's say someone could make someone do something that they didn't want to do. Like, they had power, they were physically powering them, or like, you know, that isn't, or like maybe a parent, right? They have kind of power over their child and they're making their child do something. Yeah, or just like, maybe they were making them do something that wasn't
maybe a better
great.
Example that you're looking for is what's happening over in Africa.
Sure, yeah. Or
right?
Like,
economically, globally, what's happening outside of the United States, you know, where freedom isn't something that everybody has, correct?
Yeah, I'm just like, in broad like terms, I guess someone like maybe having power over someone shouldn't give them the right to kind of unfairly use that power over someone.
Have you experienced that?
I mean, sure. I'm sure at some point in life, maybe I've had someone maybe in school or something, maybe I was bullied, or maybe at some point, I can't think of like a specific example, but.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, so you're coming across this from like, hey, have you ever been bullied? Like,
well, not necessarily. It's just like kind of just this question's more just in broad terms. Like, if someone just being stronger, or smarter, or just having, I guess you could quote like say power over someone, that shouldn't inherently give them a right to dominate someone or use that power.
No, not at all. But I guess I've never personally experienced that. You know, like I have friends that are definitely more athletic than what I am, right? But because of how I care for them, they care for me back. You know, like for example, I'm not a great hiker, right? I can maybe do 5 miles at most, but I have friends who can do 20 miles. But when I go hang out with them, they make sure that they go slow, they don't go too far, right? So I think that there are people in this world that you're talking about that are more powerful, that are rude. Well, I just let those people stay inside their lane and I go into my lane, right? We have a right to walk away from everything in our life, right? And just because you walk away doesn't mean you're teaching somebody a lesson. It typically means that you've taught yourself a lesson. Dolly Parton said that, by the way.
Well, sure, yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Like, it's just kind of like a broad, like, you know, I guess if someone can treat, I guess like a good Spider-Man quote, like maybe you have a responsibility to, maybe you have talents over someone and maybe like don't make them feel bad or like.
Okay, so you're talking about it from a managerial standpoint.
Just again, it's just like a broad, it's not necessarily from one specific standpoint. It's just a broad term. You should like basically if you have, I guess, a skill set or a power, kind of a quote unquote a power over someone, you shouldn't unfairly use that against them.
No, absolutely. That's, you know, I'm a man of faith. So the stuff that God has given me, I use that for good to help others. It's inherently, we need to be lifting others up around us, not be putting them down. And if we find someone who's like that, just coach back to them. If they don't want to listen, that's their problem.
Yeah.
You move on to the next solution and then you go help the next person.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Exactly. So kind of, I guess in that vein, kind of switching the topic a little bit from like humans to like animals. So like animals, for example, do you think when we kind of use them in ways like sending them into slaughterhouses or using them in zoos, circuses, like vivisection laboratories, do you think that's kind of fair to do to them? Do you think we're kind of expressing like a power over them that's unfair?
Gotcha. Okay, I see where we're coming from on this one. So let me ask you this: are you aligned with PETA?
No, we don't have an affiliation with PETA or.
What's your take?
That might fall over. Or whatever. It's fine.
it's totally cool. It's totally cool. No, I do think like I do think that there does need to be regulations as far as like circuses go and things such as that. When it comes to slaughterhouses, I really don't have an opinion on that kind of piece of thing. When it comes to animals, I will say that I am pro-hunter, and I come from a state that is pro-hunting, right? Now, that doesn't mean that I needlessly believe that we can go out there, and do what we want. There still needs to be rules and regulations that are governing that piece of things, right? And so I think as long as we have those rules and regulations, I think we're perfectly fine. We need to make sure that we have our moral and ethical boundaries that are built into it. For anybody who's really against that, I mean, we have to go back, and you can go back 10,000 years to, when we had people who were living on this continent before all the European settlers came over here. And part of their survival was hunting, but it was all done with morals and ethics and sharing.
Yeah. So do you think, I guess there's a few points I want to kind of address there. Speaking like, do you think like animals are sentient, right? Do you think they have a subjective experience, like they can feel like sentient in like they're experiencing the world, right? Like they have emotions, they can feel pain and fear and suffer.
I'm sure that they do. I'm sure that they do. But I'm not going to claim to relate to them or understand how they feel.
Well, sure. I mean, like, you can't exactly relate to them, or I mean, not even every necessarily human can relate. We all have like, I guess, a different experience. Like I'm sure my subjective experience is a lot different from maybe yours or, any of theirs. Exactly. But do you think, like, speaking though that they are sentient, right? That they could maybe experience suffering and can feel pain and fear and all that. Do you think in that sense that if we don't necessarily need to use them or harm them, that we should, or exploit them? Like, do you think we should be doing that if we don't need to?
I think I backed it up just a little bit ago. I said that we have to follow things morally and ethically. And so we're not about exploiting, right? I think it comes down to, I think what you're asking is just be a good human being and care for the things around you and care for the people who are around you, right? And I think if we're just good human beings and we have good faith and we treat this world good and we treat each other good, I think that at the end of the day, we're going to be just fine. I mean,
do you think though that when we are still using them though, even if it's, I guess, in a more nicer way, we still are technically like using them? And if we have other options, right?
What do you mean by using them? Are you talking about like using pack horses to go into the mountains, or are you talking about like utilizing cows to go to slaughter for beef that you have hamburgers at McDonald's?
I mean, it can be both, right? Just using animals in any way where we don't need to.
I don't think McDonald's does beef anymore. I could be wrong on that one.
I don't know, but whether it is, or meat or using an animal in like I said, another way, like it could be that, like the horse example you said, or in zoos or circuses, or for medical testing, like, do you think in 2026 we have other options where we don't need to use animals? Like, do we have a reason to be doing this still in 2026, do you think?
That's a really good question. I don't have an answer for you on that one.
Have you ever heard of like veganism, for example?
Oh yeah. I've studied veganism, and everything, and I definitely eat healthy. That's what I do. So I'm not a big processed meat fan. That's why I go out and get my own food, so that I have healthy food that is natural.
Yeah. Do you kind of like, I guess, if you were to kind of like explain veganism to me, like how would you kind of, I guess, like if you could give me like a just definition, how would you kind of like explain it?
Man, that's a really great question. And there's probably a pretty good definition, and I'm not going to be the guy to be able to do that, because I got to stay in my lane when I have to admit that I'm not as well educated on things. And so I'm not as well educated on veganism. What I do know is that I go out, I forage mushrooms, right? I go out, forage shallots and things like that within the forest back where I live, and I bring those things to my table, and I make sure that I go hunt and I have healthy food and I prepare that food, properly. I utilize the whole animal for everything that I do there, right? And so when it comes down to like veganism, I guess I eat healthy, but I'm not a full-fledged vegan. Now, do I have vegetarian meals? Absolutely. I do things like that. But, at the end of the day, I'm definitely not a spokesperson who could really speak on behalf of that really well.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. I feel like most people probably don't necessarily know what veganism truly is. I feel like most people probably.
Last question. My wife is telling me that she's kind of telling me that I got to get going.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. If you got to get going, we can wrap this up. I don't. I'm obviously not holding you here.
No, not at all.
But we kind of just veganism is, it's like an ethical principle against the exploitation of, non-human animals or just sentient beings in general, right? So if we don't need to kind of in 2026, for example, when we have access to other things and we don't need to use animals, whether that be, for food, clothing, vivisection laboratories like medical testing, if we have options, should we be using animals still, right? Because obviously they have that subjective experience, they can feel. So in that sense, we share that commonality. So do you think we should give them the basic respect and rights to just live their life, right? Free of human cause.
Now that's a really great thing that you just said. So why don't we give them the basic right to live their life, right? I agree with that. Let's give them a basic right to live with life. In return, what I would ask for is that we give every baby an option to live that life as well too.
Well, I mean, I can kind of see where you're going.
No,
it's
you
not
can't.
Really debate
You
about
can't
abortion,
go one way and then the other. We either agree on one thing, right? And that's, you can't sit here and say, well, let's give these animals here an option. Let's make sure that we're not breeding them to have babies so that we can eat them, blah, blah, right? But at the same time, we have children in this world, right? And we have to be able to give them the same safety net. If we fought as hard for our children as what we do for our animals, I think that we would see a lot of change within this world. So I do agree with you that we do have to be better, but I think we have to be better on both sides of the fence.
Well, sure. I mean, I can agree that, obviously we should.
God bless, man.
Would you be willing to take a resource card?
Resource card?
Yeah, we have cards if you want to. I'll let you go, but this is just our website. Yeah. If you want to go ahead and check it out, you can scan the QR code or you can just look it up. You don't have to scan it. This is just a Dominion documentary called Dominion. I think, if you are going to buy these products or, I think it's just important to be an informed consumer. So all we ask is that maybe just do some research and just at least be an informed consumer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you guys doing some type of thing where you're donating some of this stuff to overseas for sponsoring children or anything else for healthy meals for them?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
We aren't.
Do you know any organization that do that? Because I would give a donation right now for that.
I don't know any off the top of my head personally. I'm sure you can find that, but you'd have to look that up. But
not a problem. Well, hey, I'll let you get back to your day. Thank you very much for the time and allowing me to join you for the conversation. Hopefully I didn't offend too many people, or at least hopefully I showed a little bit of love, that I care for everybody, and that I just want us all to be able to make our choices and let each other live and have a good life.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for stopping by, and you have a good day.
Yeah. God bless.